History hides dark secrets, some so twisted they defy explanation. Royal bloodlines erased overnight. Scientists who knew too much. Leaders who vanished, leaving only questions. These are not just deaths. They are mysteries that refuse to die. Brace yourself. This is the top 10 most mysterious deaths of historical figures. Number 10. The vanishing of Grand Duchess Anastasia. It was July 17, 1918. The Russian royal family was dragged into a dark basement, sentenced to death by revolutionaries. Gunfire erupted, screams echoed, and when it was over, 9 bodies lay in pools of blood. But there was a problem. Anastasia's body was missing. For years, rumors spread. Did she escape? Was she hiding? Then in 1920, a woman named Anna Anderson surfaced in Germany. She had royal manners, the Romanov accent, and even scars, matching Anastasia's wounds. Even the Romanov relatives believed her. Then, decades later, DNA tests were performed. And the truth? She wasn't Anastasia. So where was the real Anastasia? Was she secretly alive? Or was her body hidden to erase a truth too shocking for history to handle? But if you think a vanished princess is terrifying, wait until you hear about the man who saw his own death coming. Number 9. Mark Twain's prophecy of his own death. Mark Twain wasn't just a writer, he was a prophet. Born in 1835, he arrived in this world under the glow of Halley's Comet. And in 1909, he made a chilling prediction. I came in with Halley's Comet. It is coming again next year and I expect to go out with it. The world laughed. How could he possibly know? Then, in 1910, Halley's Comet blazed across the sky. And Twain? Died the very next day. Was this a cosmic coincidence? Or had Twain unlocked a secret about fate? One that allowed him to see the moment his life would end? If you think that's shocking, wait until you hear about the scientist whose very mind may have been stolen. Number 8. Nikola Tesla's missing brain. Nikola Tesla, the man who gave us electricity, wireless energy, and dreams of a free power world, died alone in a New York hotel room in 1943. Within hours, the FBI raided his room. They seized everything: his notebooks, his inventions, and something far more chilling. His brain was never found. Some say the government took it to steal his secrets. Others believe he was working on a technology so powerful, it had to be erased from history. But what if Tesla had one last experiment? What if his mind wasn't stolen, but uploaded? His final project was rumored to be a device that could store consciousness. Could Tesla have escaped death itself? But if a vanishing brain shocks you, get ready for a case so disturbing, it poisoned an entire hospital. Number 7. Gloria Ramirez. The woman who became toxic. In 1994, emergency room doctors in California were faced with something out of a horror movie. A woman named Gloria Ramirez was rushed into the ER, suffering from heart failure. But as nurses tried to save her, something horrifying happened. Doctors collapsed. Nurses fainted. The entire hospital ER had to be evacuated. The cause? Her blood. It smelled of ammonia and contained crystals never seen before. Medical experts still can't explain it. Was it a bizarre chemical reaction? A government experiment gone wrong? Or did Gloria become something beyond human? One thing is certain: no autopsy was ever completed. Why? Because even in death, her body was still dangerous. But if that creeps you out, just wait until you hear about the Pope, who died with an eerie smile on his face. Number 6. The smiling death of Pope John Paul. A pope's death should be announced by the Vatican, followed by a proper investigation. But in 1978, something very, very wrong happened. Pope John Paul V was found dead in bed. But here's the chilling part. He was sitting up, smiling. A heart attack should have left his face twisted in pain. But his peaceful smile didn't match the medical reports. Even more suspicious? The Vatican refused an autopsy. Some believe he was poisoned, just days after planning to expose corruption inside the church. His death was so sudden, so strange, that many whispered, did he really die of natural causes? Or did someone silence him? And with that, we reach the end of part 1. But the next 5 deaths? Even darker, even more unexplainable. Stay tuned, because what's coming next will shake history to its core. Number 5. The haunting mystery of Edgar Allan Poe's final hours. Edgar Allan Poe, the master of horror and mystery, lived in darkness. But the way he died? That's the real horror story. On October 3, 1849, Poe was found wandering the streets of Baltimore, delirious, wearing someone else's clothes. He was raving, trembling, and muttering nonsense. But the most chilling part? His final words, "Lord, help my poor soul." Then, he died. Doctors were baffled. There was no clear cause, no drugs, no wounds. But here's where it gets even more terrifying. Poe had written stories about men being trapped in nightmares, buried alive, poisoned by unseen forces, as if he knew something about the nature of death. And in one of his last letters, he warned, "There is something following me. I feel it closing in." Was he talking about a real stalker? A curse? Or had he written his own fate into existence? Whatever the truth, his death remains one of literature's greatest unsolved mysteries. But what if I told you there was a death so disturbing that even touching the body could kill you? Number 4. The radioactive death of Alexander Litvinenko. Litvinenko was a former Russian spy, but he made one fatal mistake. He betrayed the Kremlin. In 2006, he had tea at a London hotel. Hours later, he collapsed. His body was shutting down, organs failing, hair falling out, skin turning pale. Doctors ran every test possible, but nothing made sense. Then, they discovered the horrific truth. His body was filled with polonium-210, a radioactive poison so lethal, a single gram could kill 50 million people. Litvinenko wasn't just poisoned. He was turned into a human nuclear reactor. His own body became radioactive. When he died weeks later, his final words were even more chilling. "I want the world to know. They did this to me." But the real horror? His assassins were never caught. And today, polonium-210 is still out there. If that doesn't make your blood run cold, wait until you hear about a mysterious billionaire whose death rewrote history. Number 3. The unsolved murder of Alfred Lowenstein. He was one of the richest men in the world, a billionaire banker with too many secrets. In 1928, he boarded a private plane from London to Brussels. But mid-flight, something impossible happened. He vanished. The door to the plane's toilet was found open, and Lowenstein, gone. The official story. He accidentally opened the wrong door and fell 4,000 feet to his death. But here's what doesn't add up. The plane's doors were impossible to open mid-flight. His body was found weeks later, but stripped of all valuables. The pilot and crew refused to explain what happened. Was it murder? A conspiracy by powerful enemies? Or did Lowenstein fake his own death to escape something worse? Well, his fortune vanished soon after. And to this day, his disappearance remains one of aviation's greatest unsolved crimes. But now, let's talk about a death so bizarre. It sounds like a horror movie. Number 2. The twisted fate of Grigory Rasputin. Rasputin was called the Mad Monk. He was the most feared man in Russia, advisor to the royal family with powers no one could explain. Some said he could heal the sick, control minds, predict the future. And in 1916, his enemies decided he had to die. But killing Rasputin was nearly impossible. First, they poisoned him with cyanide-laced wine, enough to kill 5 men. He laughed. Then they shot him in the chest. He stood up. They shot him again and again. He kept fighting. Finally, they beat him, tied him up, and threw him into a frozen river. Days later, his body was found in the ice. But the most terrifying part, his autopsy showed water in his lungs, meaning he was still alive when he hit the water, and he drowned trying to escape. But what if I told you that one of history's greatest leaders also met a death so strange, it still haunts us today? Number 1. The shocking end of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was a military genius, a ruler feared by nations. And in 1821, he was exiled to a remote island, His health declined rapidly. His skin turned yellow. Hair fell out. Doctors said he died of stomach cancer. But in modern times, forensic experts found something alarming. High levels of arsenic in his hair. Arsenic, the perfect poison. It kills slowly, mimicking disease, making it look natural. The suspicion? Napoleon was murdered. By who? Maybe the British, who feared his return. Maybe his own generals, who wanted power. Or was it something more sinister? Napoleon himself once said, "Death is nothing, but to live defeated is to die every day." Did his enemies ensure he would never return? Or was this one final twist in his unstoppable legacy? These are the mysteries history tried to bury. But history has a dark habit of never staying buried for long. Which one of these unbelievable deaths shocked you the most? Comment below. And if you want more shocking, mind-blowing stories, hit that subscribe button. Because we're just getting started.